right. I'm officially have to put my lamp on now.
It's lamp time.
Yeah, it's getting darker earlier. Earlier for sure. Though we're starting a little bit later than normal tonight, but
yeah.
Fall's coming.
It is getting darker earlier. That's the only depressing part about this time of year is like it gets dark at like I was so used to it getting dark like closer to 9. Now it's like 6:30.
Yeah, it's funny. Even though it happens every year, it always feels very quick when it's like, oh, it's like till like 8 o'clock, and then all of a sudden it's like 6, especially when it's cloudy and rainy, like it's been the last few days. It was like dark at like 6 o'clock. It felt like I was outside with Rylan like right before it rained, and I'm like, man, it's like dark out.
Yeah, that's the downfall to the fall.
Agreed.
Hi, I'm Nick,
and I'm Josh,
and this is the PUDs Podcast.
So what's going on, dude?
Not much, man. Not much. What's going on with you?
Not too much. Been racking up some elevation gain for the Taylor James Steve's Taste Summit Challenge. So that's been fun. I haven't gotten up north, but I've been going back to my old stomping grounds in Cumberland, Rhode Island, my hometown, and found. Well, I didn't find them, but basically made up a route of just kind of looping up some of the old ski hills over there, because they actually tried to make it a sort of ski resort, I think in like 60s through the 80s, and finally just went out of business because it's a 500-foot hill in Cumberland, so not necessarily the best place to get snow. But I've been heading over there and kind of looping, and I've done 5,000 feet since last week. So just looping over there. I've been getting up early some mornings before work and going in the dark and kind of doing my thing. Just goes to show you don't need an enormous hill. So I guess this kind of goes with the theme of tonight's show too, but you actually don't need an enormous hill to sort of make a huge challenge out of it, or at least get some gain. Like been doing 4 loops up and down generally. And then I went over the weekend on Sunday morning and did like 8 loops and got knocked out like 2,000 feet. So It gets a little monotonous, but I had some music on and a podcast. So it was good.
I feel like that's going to be a little foreshadowing here.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Oh, and the other thing too, I'll have to share it on our page, but they used to call it Haunted Hill at Cumberland in Diamond Hill, that they do every year, where like just like a spooky thing, you like pay and you go through it, and they got like Michael Myers and all sorts of people dressed up in costumes and stuff. And it was run by the town, but I guess now they have a company called 13th World doing it. That looks like they do ones sort of all over New England. And they started setting up there. So I was like walking in the other morning through the entrance, and they just had like a giant statue of like the It Clown with like a balloon. So I got like a selfie with it, but it was funny. So I took a selfie with it, but then I was going up by myself up sort of the ski trails later. I'm like, I swear to God, because it was still kind of dark. I had my headlamp on. I'm like, I swear to God, if I see a figure of that clown behind me right now, like it's following me in the woods, like I'm out. I'm not coming back in the dark anymore.
Oh no,
that did cross my mind. I'm not gonna I'm like, maybe I shouldn't have taken a selfie with it. Like, what if I angered the statue? These are just early morning thoughts when you're by yourself.
Oh, it's spooky season.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, it was cool. There, you kind of see all like the sets and stuff that they're setting up over there, and it looks like they even do. I kind of hopped on their website just out of curiosity. They even do like a couple like 21 plus or 18 plus nights where like I don't know what that's about. Like it's like extra scary and gory, I guess.
It's the adult tour.
Yeah.
So you can drink if you want, and you can say whatever the hell you want.
I don't think it's actually like that you drink or anything. It looked like though like the people can like touch you if you wear like a necklace and stuff like that. It was weird. It's weird how they phrase it, because like this allows our monsters to touch you on a website, and you're like, huh, just poor phrasing. Poor phrasing maybe. I don't want Chucky to touch me.
Unless you're into that thing. Yeah. Unless you're into that kind of thing.
Like, oh, the It Clown. Oh.
Ooh. Ooh.
Ooh. Oh gosh. Anyways, yeah, I've been racking up some elevation gain, and I think I'm sitting at just over 11,000 feet, and I'm super grateful to everybody that's been donating to my fundraiser. But I'm still just short, and I'd love to surpass it by a bit. It's linked in my Instagram and also our PUDs Podcast Instagram if you do feel like giving to a great cause to genetic lung cancer.
Yeah, give to the boy. He's out there doing it. Where do you rank right now in the elevation?
I actually didn't check after 3? I submitted last. I don't think I'm top 3 anymore. I'm probably in the top 10, but there's people crushing out there. I think someone's already at like 16,000, but I'm definitely more motivated this year. And I don't know why, last year I kind of wasn't thinking to just like go up and down the hill. Oh, I know why, because they wanted the all trail predefined routes, but I was showing Britt like shortly after we had her on the podcast that you can sort of create custom maps if you have a membership. So I literally created my own loop that's just like going up and down 2 of the old ski trails literally. So it's maybe like, I don't know, like 0.2 or 0.3 miles up and then 0.2 or 3 miles down. But it's nice because you can knock out like 250 feet just like that instead of having to like loop around all of Diamond Hill. So I've been able to do it a little bit more quickly, which has been nice.
You are number 5 right now.
Okay, awesome.
Just so you know, at 11
in elevation, anyways.
130 feet. Yeah,
cool.
Yeah, you're about 10,000 feet off the leader.
Sick. Well, we'll keep plugging it and doing it for genetic lung cancer.
Keep plugging away, dude.
Yeah. And
that's awesome, man.
Yeah, that's about it. And hopefully add some more elevation out on Sunday. Get up to do some trail maintenance. See if I bag Adams or Madison. It's supposed to be a beautiful day, it looks like, and a little nippy for sure. It looked like summit temps are in like the high 30s, low 40s.
Ooh.
Fall. It's fall, y'all. It's fall.
It's fall, y'all.
I'm not. Don't even talk about snowshoes. It's too early. If I get there and there's snow up above, I'm gonna be mad and I'm gonna blame you.
Yeah. Okay. Friendship over. Josh is
like, I'm okay with that. It's fine. What are you gonna do? You're gonna be 5,000 feet up on a mountain. And I'm gonna be where I'm gonna be.
I'll be nice and cozy wherever I am.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome, man. Yeah, get it done. Bring your IKEA bag.
I will.
Word. You ready to get into the music moment?
Yeah, man. Let's do it.
Let's do it. All right, Nick. So the next music moment is brought to you by Roots Coffee Roasters. And they are soon to be introducing that dark roast. I have a bag of beans waiting for you. I've tried the dark roast. It is delicious. So keep an eye out for that.
I'm excited. I'm pretty pumped to try it.
Keep an eye out for that. You can head on to their website at rootscoffeeroasters.us. And if you use promo code PUDS10, that's PUDS and the number 10, you can get 10% off your order. Whole bean, ground, however you take it, they'll ship it to you wherever you are within the country. So yeah, check them out. rootscoffeeroasters.us, promo code PUDS10 for 10% off. And don't forget, part of the proceeds goes to drilling wells in Asia,
good stuff,
Africa, and South America. So yeah,
should clarify wells for water too. Good purposes.
Yeah, wells. What did I say? Did I not say wells?
No, you said wells. I don't know. I was trying to be funny because people would be like, for drilling oil wells? I don't know. Anyway, don't listen to me.
Wells for water.
Sorry, I won't interrupt.
Wells for water.
Good stuff.
That's it. Roots Coffee Roasters, delicious. The promo code I know was down for a minute. Thank you to the listener that pointed that out to us, but it is up and active. So
yeah, we do appreciate it.
PUDS 10.
I also enjoyed the comment about they must have dropped us as a sponsor because we don't know anything about Oasis. They also have mixed feelings about Oasis too, to clarify. So
that's awesome.
I'm sorry if you're an Oasis fan, the fan that corrected us, but we do appreciate that. If you ever have issues with our coupon codes, please let us know because it's not beneficial to either party.
Yeah, we'll get in touch with them. So
yeah,
perfect segue into Nick's music moment, the Oasis talk.
Yes, perfect. So for tonight's Nick's music moment, I have Octung Baby by U2 that came out in 1991. So this is an album by U2 that I wasn't as familiar with as I thought. I mean, I probably listened to it at one point, but it's been a super long time. Sort of the backstory behind Octung Baby is it came out. I mean, they're supposed to be sort of inspired by the falling of the Berlin Wall and sort of the German reunification when the Cold War officially ended. And it also came off the heels of their album Rattle and Hum in 1988 that did commercially pretty well, but it had a lot of critical backlash. I think a lot of people thought they were sort of recycling sort of the feel of the Joshua Tree and trying to dive into sort of Americana a bit more. You can kind of read more about it if you want, but they really were looking to go in a completely new direction with this album. And I find it's almost sort of not like they were reborn a little bit, but you can tell that they consciously were trying to get away from sounding like they sounded on the Joshua Tree. This album has a bunch of different influences on it. Like they're using electronic drums and sort of distorted vocals and all sorts of things going on. Some of the singles off it that most people have probably heard are the song One in Mysterious Ways. So I forgot Mysterious Ways. Like that's a good little tune. It's kind of funky and stuff. I've really enjoyed the album front to back for the most part. I really love the song Ultraviolet and The Fly and Acrobat. I think they're all solid tunes. It's always cool going back and re-listening to music that I might have listened to a while ago and really didn't appreciate as much. I feel like overall I have more appreciation for it, and it resonated more with me than I thought. I was kind of listening through it for another project and kind of getting familiar with a couple of the songs off it. So go check it out. Octung Baby, U2.
That's awesome, man.
Do you have anything for Josh's jazzy music moment?
Nah, man. I got a feeling that we're gonna with this next guest that we have, we're gonna have a lot to get into. So I don't want to waste any time. I want to get right into it.
Yeah, that sounds good to me, buddy. We got a great guest coming up, so let's dive into it.
Yeah, let's do
it. All right, so welcome to the podcast, Philip Carcia. Super excited to have you, dude. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah,
What's
man,
up,
I appreciate
Phil?
the invite. Josh, my guy, what's good?
What's
How you
up,
boys
man?
doing? What's up?
We're good. We're doing well. Just chilling and enjoying these cloudy, cool temps and sort of the fall vibes coming in.
This is my weather. I love. We've had such little rain this fall in New England. Like we went from rainy summer to like super dry fall, and now like it's stormy and moody, and leaves are blowing and rain's coming down. Like I love it.
Yeah. No, I kind of feel like there's something. I think it's like an inherent like New Englander thing where I kind of enjoy these gray days. There's just the vibes to them. It makes me think of like Thanksgiving, Halloween. Kind of there's something about it. I will say by like December, if it's like this and it doesn't start snowing, it's kind of like, okay, like can we get some wintry weather? But definitely feel that.
Yeah, I prefer the moody weather, man. If there's like too many days of sun in the summer, like I just start to get a little itchy. I want to lock my doors and pull down the shades, man. Like this, I don't mind being out in this weather at all, especially with the cooler temps.
Yeah.
Now that I'm older, dude, I've gotten way more into fall than I ever was in my life. I was 100% a summer guy for like my entire life until like the past few years. I'm like, oh, it's way nicer to be outside in the fall than it is the summer.
Hallelujah.
I don't think people quite appreciate like how absolutely like violent the summer is, like in the outdoors. Like you always hear these stories about the winter and all the perils of like winter hiking and you know the outdoors in winter, but like in the summer, man, especially when you're in kind of like East Coast heat wave, 100% humidity mode. You know, it might be sunny every day, but like it's a heat wave and humidity, and you're trying to like go out and do exercise or just exist outdoors. Like between that and like, you know, mosquitoes and I mean like it is brutal. It is brutal in my opinion. Way worse than any time of year.
Yeah, I feel you. I kind of am a runner too, so like it's like I hate when you're going out in the morning like to try to just beat it, and it's like 82 degrees or the feels like it's like 90 at like 9 a.m. or something. I'm like I'm not about that. I'm about when it's like 65 and it's just kind of breezy and cool.
This is the season, man. Yeah, this is the time to be outside for sure.
But anyways, we love talking about the weather on this podcast. But anyways,
excellent.
We talk about the weather way too much.
That doesn't bother me, man. That doesn't bother me at all.
It's like we're not going to actually talk about you this whole time. We're just going to talk about the weather. But
you guys want to riff on weather? I'm down. No. I'm super down.
Yeah. All right, man. Do you want to introduce yourself to I'm sure many of our listeners have heard of you, familiar with sort of Finding Philip, and I know I just knew a handful of your accomplishments. Do you want to sort of introduce yourself and sort of take us back to your roots?
Yeah, I'll keep it pretty brief because a lot of my sort of backstory is out there for people to, you know, read through or listen to at length. So if they want to do that, they can do so. But my name is Philip Carcia. I hate boxes. I've come to hate titles and definitions. But if I had to use those, I guess I would say that I'm a hiker. I'm a runner. I'm a peak bagger. I'm a filmmaker. I'm a photographer. I'm just a creative in general. Grew up in central Massachusetts. I grew up in the city of Worcester.
Welcome to Worcester.
So certified masshole for sure. And now super lucky, really for like the last 6 years or so, super lucky to be living and working and kind of projecting, i.e. taking on a bunch of different long distance hiking and endurance pursuits in the best range of mountains in the fucking world, man, the White Mountains of New Hampshire. And like I said, I've been up there for the last 6 years or so. And I guess if I were to like summarize kind of like what all that means very briefly, I've done a ton of hiking, a ton of backpacking, a ton of through hiking, a ton of backpacking on long distance sort of hiking trails, iconic long distance hiking trails over the last, I would say, maybe 20 years or 22 years. I climbed Mount Wachusett for the first time when I was 16 years old, and have amassed close to 35,000 miles at this point, between, like I said, my long distance through hiking across different trails in the United States, and also just like this projecting, this very sort of like project based mission that I'm on in the White Mountains over the last 6 years. And just love it all, man. Love it all. Love every style. Love to sort of incorporate my creative self into a lot of these pursuits. Like I've been shooting video and photo for the better part of like these 20 years as well. And, in this very sort of like modern 2024 social media age where, a lot of people aren't just going out there and doing these things in the mountains. They're also taking a camera and documenting their experiences and sharing them, with quote unquote the masses. Like it's just felt like a natural marriage for me to like bring that skill set in and share it with my community, share my experiences with my community. So a lot there, but that's kind of my backstory. That's kind of what I've been up to for like the last 20 years, the majority of my adult life. And man, it's been a blast.
We're gonna dig into a lot of the different things that you've done. The thing that I kind of like to ask the guests that come on is like, where did it start, dude? Like, where did this passion come from? Where you've amassed it into basically a lifestyle. Where did it begin?
Starting point, Central Massachusetts. More specifically, Mount Wachusett. Kind of just dropped that name earlier. Mount Wachusett is a very, very small mountain in the town of Princeton, so Central Massachusetts. It's about 2,000 feet in elevation. It's much better known as like a skiing mountain.
Yep.
To folks that are in the area.
Wachusett.
Don't make me sing the rest of that, man, because I totally
don't
do it. Shout out to Wachusett though, man. We're doing free advertising for you guys.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, seriously.
Show us some dollars. Show these boys some dollars.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's mostly known as like a skiing hill, but there's like probably 18 miles of trail, or maybe a little less, of trail on the backside and the front side of the mountain. And when I was just before like my 17th birthday, I found myself climbing up Mount Wachusett for the first time, and getting up to the summit. And that was the first time that I was on trail. That was the first time that I was like ever hiking to a high point of any kind. And instead of like being in the city of Worcester, I was looking down on the city of Worcester and looking east to the city of Boston, looking out to the Berkshires in Western Massachusetts. And just like being the type of kid that I was at that time, I immediately went home, and I remember like getting on like my AOL dial-up like internet computer, like super OG, and like getting on like AOL search or whatever, and just kind of like typing like, what are the tallest mountains in Massachusetts? What are the tallest mountains in New England? And in the very sort of what now seems like archaic ages of the internet, I mean the wormhole was a lot more narrow, and just like immediately started seeing like white mountains. And as soon as I got a car of my own, my grandfather's 1984 Dodge Diplomat.
Dodge Diplomat.
It was crazy, dude. Yeah, it was like a wagon. It was like we called it the Golden Dragon. It was just this boat.
That's awesome.
This wild boat that had no business driving up 93 through, I-93 through Franconia Notch, but it did. And man, found the White Mountains, and that kind of like collective experience there, like climbing Mount Wachusett, having that experience, that very formative experience for the first time. being like the very curious kid that I was, like even again in that age, like there was far less information when you're kind of like wanting to get into the White Mountains in general, like never mind like endurance or like FKT, like that culture didn't really even exist.
Right.
But despite that, like I found myself getting up on Franconia Ridge for the first time, and found myself getting up into the presidentials for the first time. And I knew then for sure, like Mount Wachusett kind of gave me the inkling, but being up in those places for the first time, I knew for sure, like this is gonna completely fuck my life up, man. Like this is gonna like in the best way possible. It was going to redirect my life, and I didn't quite like know to what extent, but I mean, looking back now, again, 20 plus years later, like those days absolutely put me on a path that I'm still on, and that has like just really afforded me some really fucking cool experiences, and just like some really unique lived moments, man, that truly just like can't be bought. They have to like just be, you got to be out there doing it and just living it.
Yeah, that's super
awesome,
cool.
dude.
It's funny that you bring that up, even because I feel like so like my hiking history I think started probably around like 2013ish. I think we finally started we started talking to a friend and found out who recommended, like, of all mountains, like to go up North Kinsman for like our first 4,000 footer, which was kind of weird. Not the worst, but not the best.
Yeah.
It's not like he recommended Mount Adams or something, but I remember even back then, like there wasn't as much. It's funny compared to everything on Facebook and like you got the hiking buddies out there and you got all these different things now. And even back then, I remember looking at forums for information and like you might find some videos on YouTube of people doing some stuff. And that really wasn't that long ago, talking like 12-ish years ago. I feel like it really has exploded. Along with everything else, I guess, media wise on the internet, but it's pretty wild.
And I don't want to like flex like the OG muscle too much.
You can absolutely.
but I am kind of like in this weird generation where like I mean, when I through hiked the Long Trail in 2007 through hiked the Appalachian Trail in 2008, like I didn't have Facebook, I didn't have Instagram. These things were like almost archaic. Like people were just kind of using those. You're still relying on a paper guidebook, a paper data book to know where the water sources were. You were relying on paper maps to know where to resupply in town. Like there was no communication with other hikers on trail via like, text. I mean, like I had a flip phone that like had just like, it was crazy. And like when I wanted to read about the experiences of other people that were doing the things that I was trying to do, that chapter was more about long distance through hiking, as I mentioned. Literally, there was like two websites. There was trailjournals.com, which was just this massive library of people who were documenting their through hike wherever it was around the country, like, by written word and kind of like publishing it in a centralized place versus like what we now see as, like our own websites or our own blogs and what have you. And there was a website, which I'm sure still exists, which is like whiteblaze.net. And it's like, that's kind of like where you were getting your information. There was no Facebook. There certainly were like no Facebook groups with hundreds of thousands of people sharing information in beta. The culture was like mostly offline because online didn't really exist. And it's just, it's cool to kind of be in that weird generation that saw that whole part of the hiking world, when it existed, but now is still kind of like doing their thing in 2024, where it's like literally the polar opposite. I mean, you gotta be hiding from information, basically, if you want, if it's going to elude you. If it's going to elude you. So, it's cool, man. It's kind of cool to have that perspective for sure.
Yeah. And since I guess you kind of dropped starting with sort of those long trails, what made you decide to do the long trail first out of all those? Was it just because it was sort of more local and it was shorter than doing like the entire AT, or?
It was actually about redemption, man. So like the year prior, I had tried to hike a much, much, much shorter trail called the Midstate Trail.
Okay.
And this is a 97-mile trail that stretches across Worcester County. Super, super dope. Very like easy to like sort of, like lightly intermediate hiking, like very sort of like beginner through hike type stuff. And I was maybe in like my early 20s, and I had been like hiking for a few years and like had gone up to the White Mountains and like done a bunch of like, not even big stuff, like just, you're just sort of like naturally progressing, even if you don't necessarily think about it that way. And I knew about the Appalachian Trail, and I knew that was like a pipe dream off in the future. But, I wanted to take like these baby steps to see if this was something that I could even do. Like when I'm up at Madison Springs Hut, waking up at like 5 o'clock in the morning, seeing through hikers who are doing like a work first day, sleeping on the picnic tables and getting up and walking north first thing in the morning, knowing that they came from Georgia and are going to Maine, and like being so fucking seduced by that visual and wanting so deeply to like have that be a part of my story. It's like, well, the way that I think, it's like, well, let's see if you can just get across Massachusetts. You know what I mean? Let's see if you can just get across something like the Long Trail, because that a lot of people will do the Long Trail before they do the Appalachian Trail. So yeah, went out in 2006, tried to do the Mid-State Trail, quit after 30 miles, man. Was out there in like some Adidas, like basketball shoes, was out there in like some Abercrombie and Fitch type cargo pants. What was out there in literally like a 55 liter, like expedition style North Face backpack, just like on some truly unresearched shit. And got super humbled, man. Got like a knee injury, like had no idea how to pace myself or hike, 5 or even 10 or even like 15 miles a day with a backpack, and no one in like my inner circle or circle of influence that had that information either. And just tried to wing it, man, and fell short. And later that summer, again in 2006, just kind of like went back and completed the Long Trail in like 5-10 mile day hikes, where I was kind of out and backing these sections and just kind of seeing what it was like to travel that distance regularly. And kind of got through that and said to myself, you know what, I want to give this one more swing next summer. This is like a year in advance. Next summer, 2007, I'm going to do the Long Trail. I'm going to wait till August, train up all summer, do my research, tap into what is the lightest gear, what is the most durable gear for the weight, like, how are people actually doing this? Because again, I'm in my early 20s and was just kind of like, had a little bit of a chip on my shoulder, and was also kind of thinking from a practical standpoint, like, how are other people doing this? If other people are doing this, like, there has to be some kind of way to like unlock this code. And long story short, that next summer, 2007, went out, did the Long Trail, very pedestrian pace. I think I completed it in like 28 days with like 1 day off. So very, very pedestrian pace, but walked away way stronger than I had started. Walked away really with like a flawless victory in terms of just what I saw as just like very simple execution. And like, getting myself through this like crazy month-long experience again, because I didn't have anybody in my circle, man, that did anything like this. Like, no one was a hiker, no one was a runner. Long distance backpacking wasn't even like on the table in terms of discussion for my friends group growing up, or even like family members that I had access to. And so a lot of this just felt like, okay, I know you need to do this, but also it's absolutely insane, because I didn't know anybody who could show me or tell me differently, So went out and had a really incredible experience on the Long Trail. Walked away again way stronger than I'd started. And at that point, this was, I guess, the fall of 2007. I was going into my I think senior year, maybe junior year of college, and just like knew that, I don't know what it was, man. I was just super high off that experience, like super high off the simple idea of being able to propel myself forward through 270 miles of trail, living outside, doing hard shit every day, going to sleep at night, feeling like there was like true purpose in my life, which I'm sure, everybody listening that's got like a more well-adjusted lifestyle that has like, wife or kids or a spouse or pets and like assets. I'm sure they're like, whoa, dude, like this is what's making you feel fulfilled. But, like, hey, listen, like, we've all kind of got our thing. And, my thing is definitely like working super hard every day on trail, testing myself, pushing myself to a certain point, falling asleep, feeling like I've really used my body, used this blessing that I have of mobility, and then waking up and doing it again. And the feeling that came away with completing the Long Trail, just, it made me realize like the AT needs to happen, and the Appalachian Trail needs to happen now. And so withdrew from college, and definitely like
dove in, dude. You dove in.
Yeah, really like pissed my dad off for sure. And got a couple
It's all right. We've all been there.
Yeah,
I
I
was
mean,
gonna say.
absolutely. But just got a couple part-time jobs, man, and started racking up money and making sure, really set a couple habits into place over those next several years when I was really just not taking on any debt, not taking on any assets, living as frugally as possible, like just not accumulating anything, and taking every cent that I made and putting it to like my financial obligations first and foremost, and then literally pocketing everything afterwards. And I'd go out, and hike the AT and spend 3, 4, 5 months on trail, come back home, pick up a bunch of other, part-time jobs, full-time work my ass off all fall and into the winter and into the spring, and go out again. And it just became, I think, Josh, you use this word in the beginning of our conversation, it became a lifestyle. And let me tell you, like, when you're in your early 20s and you don't have a wife and you don't have kids and you don't have pets and you don't have debts, and like you have a thirst for just like that real shit, like that real life shit where you're going out and putting yourself in a position where you're walking hundreds or thousands of miles through the mountains, hitchhiking into town, getting into weird cars, like talking to just like unknown people, and kind of just really living that life, or putting yourself in a position, a good portion of the time where anything is possible. It is very addicting, and it does become a lifestyle, and it does become an obsession. And that's kind of how my, my early and my late, my early 20s to my mid 20s, and really even into my my early to mid and into my late 20s, like it really was just about through hiking, and it was about like not accumulating anything. It was about just what's the next trail, what's the next through hike. There's the way that we have lists in the Northeast, the way that like our culture is super list driven in the Northeast and in the White Mountains, like it was all about just like through hikes, national scenic trails. Like, oh, okay, hike the long trail, got to do the AT-Next. Okay, we do the AT-Next. Okay, do the AT-Next. You want to go do the PCT? Well, you better do the Colorado Trail first, just to make sure like you got those legs and those lungs, So we do the Colorado Trail. All right, well now we're good. Let's go do the PCT. And it's just it was truly endless, man. And it took like shared a little bit about this with you, Nick. Like it took really watching my father die in 2014. For me to get stopped in my tracks, and have to focus on something outside of myself for a while.
And we can both feel it. So I actually lost my dad to lung cancer a couple of years ago, and Josh lost his dad 6 or 7 years
in 2017.
So we both lost our dads pretty early as well. So
sorry to hear that, guys.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear for you as well. I mean, but yeah, we definitely can resonate and sympathize with you, and know how that can really, it just hits you, man. It's like, especially, it depends. I mean, I was fortunate, I had a pretty good relationship with my dad too, and Josh, same here. So I mean, it's one of those things, you don't wish you had a worse relationship so you didn't miss your dad as much or something, but it's tough no matter what. So but yeah, man.
Yeah, for me, and I say this a lot, when you lose somebody, when you lose anybody, never mind a parent, never mind a spouse, never mind a friend, never mind a child or a sibling, I kind of feel like there's either one of two things that are going to happen. Like, you're either going to look at your life and say, hey, I'm doing X, Y, Z, and I am dissatisfied with this, and I need to use this as a catalyst for change, because of course you're in this process of grief, you're in this process of mourning somebody, but you're also kind of like wrestling with this new perspective on your own mortality and
100%.
The finite nature of life. Or you're going to look at your own life, you're going to understand that you've been doing X, Y, Z, and you're going to make the decision that, wow, I think this is working for me. I think that if I continue to do this, I'm going to truly be happy, even in the wake of, this absolutely traumatic experience that has presented itself. And you lean into that. And that was very much the case for me. This wasn't a life-changing experience for me. I mean, my life did change when my father died. My whole family's life did. This is somebody that I would describe as being the cornerstone of my family. I mean, truly the glue. However, I realized, like, wow, okay, if you're gonna, let's say worst case scenario, it's crazy. I'm sure you guys understand this. It's crazy what your fucking brain does when you're like watching somebody die. I mean, you're just like, you know, the sort of the things that sort of start to happen and the way that you start to think and the things that you start to catch are crazy. But, you know, I remember thinking like, okay, like if I'm gonna die the same age as my father, worst case scenario, you know, like at 63 years old.
It's totally true, man. It's totally true.
Like I've got, you know, at that point it was something like, I don't even know, 32 more summers left in New England. And I've been literally living directly from my heart for my entire adult life. This is like, you know, after watching my father die. And it's like, I don't want to change anything, man. In fact, I want to lean the fuck in, and I want to lean in, not in terms of like, not in a way where I'm going out and like through hiking all these trails that are like way far away from home, you know, because at that point it's just like, man, you feel so connected to your immediate family, you know, that's still alive. You guys have just like been through this crazy shit. I didn't want to like go out and hike the CDT, you know, the Continental Divide Trail. I don't want to go out and like start picking off more, you know, more trails that were so far away from home and taking me away from my family and like forcing me to like sleep out in the dirt for like months at a time, often by myself. I wanted to like redirect all that energy to really like what I consider to be the origin story for me, the starting place, like the foundation, the source.
Are we going back to Wachusett?
Wachusett will always be the source for me, but like I'm speaking more to the White Mountains, because like what I've kind of left out of the conversation is like, you know, after climbing Wachusett and researching what, you know, what was what with all of the bigger mountains in New England, and after going, you know, up to the White Mountains, I mean, I would go back to the Whites and hike the White Mountains religiously, you know, several times, if not more, per year for years. You know, I'd come back from these through hikes, and it was just, that would be my go-to. That would be my reprieve. Once I was getting these these part-time and full-time jobs again, and like losing my mind and like, you know, making pizzas and doing deliveries and shooting weird videos. Like I'd go to the Whites and like train up and, you know, stay connected in that way. And so like after my father died, it was like, yeah, man, we got to go back to the source. Like, the White Mountains are like, you know, I started off saying this, like just in my mind, just like world-class mountains and like the greatest mountain range on the planet. And it just felt like there was so much untouched ground in the Whites. There were so many undones that hadn't been attempted yet. And I was kind of like reeling from this crazy experience of watching my father die. And I was like, you know what, man, I'm going up next summer. And I'm going to live out of my car, and I'm going to hike the 48 for the first time. Because even though I had been going up there for years, I had always just selfishly gone to like all my favorite spots. Like I just go to like the Northern Presidentials.
As many people do. I mean,
like only like Northern Presidentials only every trip for like 2-3 years. You know what I mean? Because I didn't really care about, I just cared about that aesthetic and just how I felt in that range. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to go up and hike the 48. Not even really for time, just like take a month and live out of my car and hike a couple peaks every day. And I had this through hiking experience in me. So I knew like that kind of mileage was possible, even though people weren't really doing it. And, you know, a lot of that in the Whites at that time, I guess there were plenty of people doing it, but you certainly didn't see the prevalence that you do now. And we didn't have like this long distance endurance hiking culture that is as popular as it is now. And for me, man, like that's sort of that part of the journey, watching my father die in 2014 and going up to the White Mountains and climbing the 48 for the first time in the summer of 2015. That was the beginning of so many things to come, and really like the basis of the work that I've been doing for really like, I guess like the last, almost 10 years, but more specifically like the last 6 years or so from 2018 on, when I first kind of moved up to the White Mountains full time.
Yeah, I hear you. It's funny. I mean, even when I was going through stuff with my dad too, I mean, I'm still dealing with it, but it's like, being out and hiking and going out there, there's something super therapeutic about it. I think it's something that maybe psychologically, like we don't quite understand as humans. Other than that, it kind of works. But there's something about that level of focus and sort of commitment and just being out there and being in nature and being with your own thoughts, which sometimes isn't always the greatest thing. As you said, like your mind can kind of run wild with situations like that. But I've found it really, and I've said this to my wife, that it's really helped me to just like take a day off and like go up and go hiking and like go out for like a 10-mile, 5,000 foot kind of day and just get out there and just enjoy it, even if the weather's like shitty. Like it's just get out there and enjoy it and sort of do your thing. It's pretty wild how beneficial it can be to the human mind.
It's an outlet, like, you know, for sure. And if you got a couple, you know, if you got a couple demons on your shoulder that like to, you know, climb up your back and whisper in your ear on a regular basis because you lost your father or because you've experienced, you know, some other trauma, like, yeah, the mountains suddenly become a beautiful canvas to try to process that in a way that brings you peace, you know, because that's what like you're looking for after loss, I think, you know, after sort of processing it and understanding that it's real and that there's nothing you can do about it. It's just about finding the space to get that peace back. And shit, the whites will bring you peace, even if it's through a tremendous amount of pain.
Well said.
I just want to say, when listening to you describe like through hiking and the Appalachian Trail and stuff like that, it just popped in my head. Like when you think about like, well, maybe it's just me, but when I think about like going on an adventure, right? I picture this scene of Lord of the Rings and like things like that, where it's like this big mystical thing where an adventure looks like that, going out and like trying to find some mystical place. And you're living a real life adventure, my man. Like you're going out, sleeping in the dirt, like you're saying, you're doing multiple hours a day under the stars, all that stuff for many days. Like that is an adventure. Like that's what adventure looks like.
Thank you, bro. Yeah, I would agree. And it's not lost on me, man. Like I'm very, very lucky. And I know that I've like made certain decisions that have just like relieved a lot of financial and like a lot of financial burdens and a lot of like time commitments, or, you know, that most people have. I just, you know, have made decisions that have resulted in me having a lot of free time and flexibility. So I'm very privileged in that way, but hell yeah, man. Like I need it to be an adventure. Awesome. Yeah. Like life is way too, even like now, you know, just like the other day, I mean, we celebrated my dad's 10 year and I was like, okay, shit, like I'm 40 now. And if I were to die, you know, again, like maybe this is crazy for people listening, but it's wild. The things that your brain thinks about. It's like, if I die when my dad died, man, it's 23 more summers in New England, man. Like you better get to fucking work, because like the shit's going to go by like this. And you're either going to be on the backside of that, like, regretting things, or you're going to be on the backside of that, like being like, I gave myself fully, you know?
Yeah.
So
what a great mindset. What a great
mindset
man. To have.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So I'm kind of plugging away. Again, thank you. You kind of threw it. So Philip threw his resume together, sort of throw over to me, because it's frankly it's quite impressive. And there's so much to talk about here. So I was going to try to pick. So I know you kind of touched on before too, sort of that experience being photographer, videographer and stuff, and sort of sharing, like, out of these first projects, like I know it looks like you were kind of going for your winters in 2015, 2016. Was there like a first project where you sort of started to incorporate like video and sort of photography into what you were doing, and sort of the sort of challenge that you set out for yourself? If you can call it, just sort of happened. I know it was a little while back now, but I admire your photography a lot as well. So I've always been looking at it, and definitely as I've been plunging a little bit back into it in the last few years, and also getting into videography. So I was kind of curious how that sort of came about.
Yeah, this might be a little, I'll make this riff really short, but I think if you're a creative, whether you realize it or not, you always want an audience. Like very, very few people, I think, create with the intention of never having their work seen.
Right.
Yeah. However, when I was growing up and in high school, and even in the early college days, this is like early 2000s, like 2001. I graduated in 2002 high school. I was into video, I was into photo, I was making all this stuff, man, and no one was seeing it because YouTube didn't exist. Facebook didn't exist. It was truly archaic trying to get your work seen. I remember in senior year creating this like highlight video of like the events that happened at school that year. And we shoveled 800 kids into the auditorium, and it literally felt like the highlight of my quote unquote video career, because it was like, wow, like this is what it feels like to actually have people see your work. Think about how different that landscape is in 2024.
Incredible. It's incredible.
It is absolutely insane. And
there's a platform for everybody now.
There is a platform for everybody. There is an opportunity to have an audience for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
There is more attention to go around 100 times over than ever has been before. And it's unbelievable, just the opportunity that we have to share our story and have it actually reach the amount of people that it does. And the reason why I bring that up is because as this space started to kind of like build over the last 10 years or so, really, like when I came up to the White Mountains in 2018, like IG stories like literally had just started. It just struck me. It struck me immediately. And of course, like YouTube had been around for quite some time at that point, but it just struck me, man, like, wow, if you're an individual that's having unique life experiences and you have the visual ability or the technical ability to capture that on a visual level, and you have the willingness to like put it out there, there's actually like lots of ways to have an audience, and there's lots of ways to get your stuff out there. And at first it was, like talking about going up and doing the double single season in the White Mountains in the winter of 2016, and even like that summer before, going up to the White Mountains and doing that single month New Hampshire 48, just doing all photo based stuff, just shooting stuff very simply, doing simple edits, putting it on my own blog and sharing that like in these groups, these Facebook groups that had, tens of thousands of people in it. It was like immediately obvious, like, wow, not only are people interested, but this stuff is reaching like folks in the community and outside of the community in a way that like it just like wasn't available, like, in the times where like I was coming up and I was starting to like do these long distance hiking, and you see really like what happens when you start sharing your story with tons of people. You start to connect with folks. You start to God, I hate using this word because I think it's so overused in the outdoor space. You really start to connect with folks and you start to inspire folks on their own journey.
It's true though. I mean, people see pictures of like the Northern Presidentials in the winter and they're like, man, I'd like to try that. Like, it's because people don't, again, like you're referring back to that age, like people don't know it. Like you had photos or whatever, but now you got 4K video of people going out there, and people see this on their Instagram and they're like, oh shit, that's insane. I didn't even know that existed. Like you see mountains in New Hampshire, but
absolutely. And so, over those course of years, really like, 2015, 16, and then certainly when I moved up to the White Mountains and started a project called the Single Year Grid, documenting and sharing that, certainly through 2018 and 2019, it was like, oh, wow, holy shit. This is, social media and the internet and my website and, sort of like losing this, like what I refer to as like church mouse mentality that we have in the outdoor space, where like, you're not supposed to talk too much about yourself, and what you do say certainly can't make anybody feel uncomfortable, certainly can't ruffle any feathers. It felt like, if you were willing to kind of like, go out there, have unique experiences, document, share that stuff, you could certainly build an audience and a following and actually have it reach like so many people. And the reason why I think that's important is because, I'm going out and I'm taking on like, these long distance projects and talking about the numbers and the vertical gain, talking about all these things that like I do, but it's very like me. It's very sort of like self-centered in that way. I mean, like I'm living my life and sharing that narrative. But when you get messages from folks who are like sending like heartfelt sentiments about seeing your stuff and having it resonate with them and being inspired to like go out there and do like this thing that's like on a much smaller scale, but like very, very big to them, that for me was kind of like a full circle moment where I'm like, wow, okay, now I'm leaning into the social media. I'm documenting this stuff. I'm sharing it as prolifically as possible. I'm not caring about like what people are saying when they're, questioning how much I'm posting or questioning like why I'm talking about myself to the extent that I am. I'm literally just sharing from a, real and raw and authentic and genuine place, and getting feedback where it feels like people have been like affected by what I'm doing, or like even better, they're going out and doing wild, unhinged shit as well. And it's just like, hell yeah, like let's keep this thing rolling. It's cool, man. Like it's really
super cool. This is totally incidental too, but I know you guys did the tilted compass recently, you and your buddy, and like I was looking at your times, and I kind of commented this was because Joshua Brooks, I think, came up with that originally,
or
at least the concept of it. But yeah, it was funny how I'm like, if people did this, I can probably go out because I need a cabin Mariah for the summer, so I'm like, I kind of had limited vacation time, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to go up and do it in the same day. And it's like, it's not something maybe people are necessarily thinking about if you're gridding or whatever, maybe it's on track. But I mean, that to me is a perfect example of people doing those challenges and going out and like saying like, dude, if you can bang out like 10 miles and 3,000 feet and you just have the mental sort of ability to get through like that, like you can go for it, and you can maybe not the tilted compass or something as crazy, but you can certainly even find your own version of that, where it's like, for me, doing those 2 mountains in a day, like I was telling Josh after we were on the podcast, and like mentally I was like probably more gone than I was physically, but it's amazing if you just kind of get past, because a lot of people I know, even like I was telling, for example, my mom, who isn't a hiker at all, and she's like, you're gonna do 2 in one day, and I'm like, yeah, it's like, this is the progression of like, at least in my sort of hiking career, of like, okay, I've been running, I've been hiking more, I know I can do this, and like, yeah, physically I felt pretty good. But to throw it back to you, yeah, I mean, that's it. For as much as people might be like, hey, you're talking about yourself in this, like you're doing it in such a way to me that I think it's respectable, that it's raw. You're not being fluffy. Like you're showing like the toenails falling off and crap like that when you've been kind of hiking those miles and sort of going the dirt and stuff. Like it's not, because it's not always pretty doing those things. Like these are the realities of hiking. And I think the way you portray it in that rawness, I think, is also what helps to inspire people. Cause you're like, hey, if you're showing all the sides of it, I guess is what I'm trying to get at. You're showing the majestic photos of the ridge and kind of the clouds blowing over, but you're also showing like, hey man, this was a pain in the ass to do. Like I was slipping and falling all through this sort of trek and stuff. So I think that sort of those nuances are why you're getting sort of that feedback, in my opinion.
Sure. And that you kind of touch upon another overarching goal of this whole mission. And that is to just dispel both the romance of long distance hiking and backpacking, and also like the fear mongering, because there's 2 extremes at play often on social media. People over dramatizing what they're going through, and people just also exclusively painting the beautiful, romantic, seductive picture of what they're going through. And I think when I think about the stuff that I want to share, when I think about or look back on what I share through a particular project, it is actually, both, and done in a way where it's like, yeah, man, it is of course about like beautiful sunsets and just like these sort of out of body, otherworldly experiences, but it's also about ripping toenails off your feet. And it's also about like doing surgery on your feet, and like eating the same thing every night, and like, rubbing parts of your body raw that should like never, ever under any circumstances be rubbed raw. And like, everything in between. And your original question, Nick, was like, do you remember when you first started, getting into the sort of like, video photo thing, or like incorporating that stuff into the hiking? And the technical answer is like, probably sometime, I mean, I started my blog in 2009, but didn't really start contributing to it or sharing my adventures prolifically until probably like 2015 or 16. And it really wasn't until like 2018, 2019, when I was hiking the single year grid and posting every day and seeing the community start to like rally around this absolutely audacious goal, that it truly hit me like, number one, wow, the potential for reach here is crazy. You absolutely have an audience and can continue to build an audience. And the reach is absolutely crazy when you look at the insights and the amount of people that are like reading this stuff and responding to it. And also like, you can have a positive impact, and that's like, again, not to beat a dead horse, but that is really kind of like the most important thing, man, because I can break every record in the book. Yeah. I mean, just to be real, because dude, like I've had a lifetime's full of kudos on Strava. I've had a lifetime's worth of Strava kudos, a lifetime's worth of Instagram likes. I've done more than my fair share of podcasts. Like I'm saying this all like very, very humbly. Like I've been lucky enough to be covered by all the hiking magazines that like I read, like, growing up, like trying to learn about this shit, like for the projects that I've taken on in the White Mountains. It's like, all that stuff is super cool. And I want to do more of that because it makes me feel good. It makes me feel like I have purpose. It makes me feel like I'm reaching my potential. But like, honestly, man, if it's not like hyping other people up as well along the way, if it's not painting a clear path for people to follow in terms of like, yo, I'm a normal ass, regular ass dude from Worcester with no God-given talent, no natural ability or talent. Like, if I can be doing those things, man, if I can be going this deep inside myself and coming out the other side and nailing some of these projects, like, trust me, you can too. And so like, yeah, Backpacker Magazine and Outside and the Boston Globe, like that shit is fucking all time, man. Like I don't even deserve to be in those publications. You know what I mean? It's super cool. But like, dude, if I'm like hyping up, some of these like 20 and 30-year-olds that are just finding this shit and coming across my page and they're like, yo, this dude's climbing Mount Wachusett 39 times in a day. This motherfucker's hiking 4,000 footers every fucking month for 12 months straight. Like if that's like helping push the next people forward, the young bloods forward, man, and giving them like just that audacity, that wild, unhinged belief in themselves, dude, like that's the fucking goal, man. Like it's not the popularity, like to be the most popular dude in the whites is not the goal. The goal is to curate an environment where there are like-minded individuals, preferably much younger than you, that are gonna carry the fucking torch, man. When I'm 60 and like out of this game, I want to be watching people 20 years younger than me doing some cool ass shit. You know what I mean? And so like, if you in your own humble way lay the groundwork for that now, I mean, I don't know, man, like this is all small potatoes, but it's cool to think about what can grow over time when your focus is not only on yourself, but also like having a positive impact on your community and your contemporaries.
No, that's for sure. I think
you just breezed past this real quick and we have to touch on it because this one stood out to me. Going over your accomplishments, this one stood out to me, and you just brought it up. So we're going to talk about it.
Yeah,
Wachusett 24-hour.
And
Explain to me this.
Yeah, okay? Man, that's one of my favorites.
One preface that I didn't want to cut out, but I'm super familiar with Wachusett. I started hiking Wachusett after the first time I really got into hiking Franconia Ridge and started to use it as I lived in North Providence, Rhode Island, so that was kind of close. And I still hit that several times a year, and now I'm taking my daughter up it. So hopefully she'll grow into a love of it. But yeah, man,
I love it, man. Hell yeah. Yeah, I can riff on that for like a minute or two, or if you guys have questions.
Tell me all about it, dude.
Yeah, there's so much to talk about. As we said, I think we're gonna have you back again to talk about some of this stuff too, because some of it's interesting. But yeah, Josh picked that one because I mean we've gone up it together, so he wanted to hear a little bit about this.
And I just gotta ask. I want to ask first, before you get into it too much. Are you hiking for 24 hours straight?
Mostly. So
because I can't do anything for 24 hours straight. So
yeah, you know what though, man? Like we'll get into this later, but you're wrong, and I don't even know you. I don't need to know anything about you really, but you're wrong.
I got you.
You can do it. Like
I've heard that a lot,
dude. This is one of my favorite quotes. Whether you think you can or cannot, you are right.
You're right. Yeah.
And it's so fucking true, man. So so let that marinate. I got you. For after the conversation. Well, I told you, when we started this conversation, I told you guys that Mount Wachusett was the first mountain that I ever climbed. And it's a mountain that I've consistently gone back to over the course of my entire adult life. I firmly believe that the elevation gain, the rocks, the roots, the tread on the trails there are very, very similar to White Mountain terrain. And I think
I tell this to people all the time.
Yep. And folks would often ask me, and still do ask me, like, why do you train on Wachusett? Like, it's so easy. And my rebuttal is always, well, how many times did you climb it when you went out and hiked?
Yeah. What loop did you do?
Yeah, because if you just kind of release yourself from this like conventional idea or conventional framework of like, I need to go out to Mount Wachusett to go hike, get to the summit once and come back down,
Go up and
the
come
world
down.
becomes it becomes a whole lot bigger, and the possibilities become a whole lot wider. And so if you guys, like anybody that's followed me for the last, whatever decade, let's say, a mantra that I have and that I believe in quite firmly is what I call given fully. And it's this idea of just very simply giving all of yourself to a particular pursuit, not to the point where you think you can't go any further, to the point where you physically cannot inch forward because you've willed every ounce of effort from your being. And really, sitting with that and understanding what that means and understanding how far you can go when you apply that mindset to different areas of your life, never mind, just on the trail. And so for me, Mount Wachusett, very important, very sacred, very spiritual place. It's the first mountain that I ever climbed. And over the course of, my entire adult life, I've kind of been progressing as a long distance hiker and runner. And it's suddenly realized at a certain point, I think right around 2020, as I'm starting to amass this significant body of work in the White Mountains and really extending the amount of distance that I can cover in a given day, it suddenly hit me. I want to give myself to the first mountain. I want to give myself fully to the first mountain that I ever climbed. And what does that look like? Well, in my mind, the most straightforward, easiest to digest answer is you climb that mountain on the same trail over and over again, as many times as you can in a calendar day, not 24 hours, in a calendar day, meaning starting and ending at midnight. And if you look at my body of work, not just on Wachusett, but really, ranging across the White Mountains, etc., you'll see that nuanced superlative woven into a lot of what I do. The calendar day winter Prezi-Pemi, the calendar day 24-hour Wachusett. And the reason why I think that nuance is important is because it forces the midnight start. And starting at midnight is very disorienting. And if you're trying to figure out how to eat and how to sleep and when to sleep and how to prepare for something like that, it is so much different than if you could just pick any hour of a
6 in the morning or whatever.
Or like, for example, like the nighttime was always, we'll get into this, but the nighttime was always the most difficult. It's like, for me, if I've got my choice, I'm going to start, at sunset the night before, go through the entire darkness section condensed all at once. So by the time I come into the morning and come into the daylight, I'm not going to have to go back into the dark again, because that's one of the things about the 24-hour, the calendar day superlative that's so tough, is like you start in the dark, you end in the dark. By the time you go back into the dark on something like this, you've been traveling for like 18 hours, or 20 hours. But so yeah, I mean, to just kind of like set this up, in my mind, giving myself fully to the very first mountain that I ever hiked was to hike as many summits as I could in a single calendar day, and doing it all on the same trail. The trail that I chose was a trail called the Mountain House Trail.
Excellent. Yeah.
Yep. It's about, depending on how you're measuring it, it's about 0.8 of a mile long one way. So 1.6 miles, 1.7 miles round trip. You're going to climb about 750 to 800 vertical feet in that distance. So about 100 feet, every 1/10 of a mile. It's it ain't the steepest thing out there, but you're climbing the whole way up.
Is that a little steeper than Pine Hill, or is Pine Hill like the steepest on that? It's probably pretty close.
It feels like now that Pine Hill is so manicured. I don't know if you've been out there recently. They've done so much trail work to that.
Yeah, I haven't been out in a few. I actually been taking Mountain House up and down the last few times. So that was more me Wachusett nerding out a little bit. I was just curious.
No, go over to Pine Hill, because they just finished like some incredible, I mean, just like absolutely beautiful, pristine trail work over there. But it's stairs top to bottom.
Yeah.
So I do believe, yes, Mountain House probably has just a steeper like incline percentage at times, but more importantly, in my opinion, it's the fucking choppiest trail on the mountain, man. Like it's rocky and rooty the whole way up, and doesn't really like let off until that upper third. And if there's a trail that I'm going to run up and down on Wachusett for 24 hours, like that's probably the least, that's the last trail that I would prefer to be hiking for a challenge like that. But when you're really being honest with yourself and you're really kind of like conceptualizing these things and you're attempting to be the first person and knowing, no one is out there doing 24 hours on Wachusett. Like this is all just kind of coming to me on long walks and trying to figure out like, what it is that needs to be done to kind of like keep pushing this game forward. I mean, like endurance culture on Mount Wachusett, it doesn't really exist. I mean, like this is like very, I hate to use, well, I don't hate to use this word because I believe this is what it is. It's pioneership. If we're talking about, pioneering moments in terms of the history of endurance on Mount Wachusett, and we were to make a list of all the important moments. I mean, I'd like to think that, trying to establish a really respectable standard of number of summits in a calendar day is probably pretty high up there on a non-existent
I'd
list.
agree with you.
On a non-existent list. So, when you're setting these precedences and kind of, establishing precedences, to me, you got to really think about this stuff and you got to really suss stuff out. Mountain House isn't the longest trail on the mountain. It's not the shortest trail on the mountain, but it's fucking choppy and it's wet when it's rained. And even when it's dry, man, it's like just weird footing, just weird footwork combinations. No matter how well you know the mountain, it's just you're thinking the whole time. And dude, it's like 0.8 of a mile for 24 hours. It is so fucking monotonous that it's that absolutely becomes just as much of a challenge as the physicality of hiking for 24 hours straight. And I knew all of this going in for the first time, and it sounded like something that was straight up my alley. And I love this idea that I could literally carry nothing up and down the mountain and have my car just like parked right at the base and have my Yeti cooler, have my Cokes and my seltzer on ice, have my like Domino's pizza slices, like just all my shit.
Excellent.
To just like keep the ball rolling. And, last but not least, document and share that experience, this very unconventional experience, like with the Mount Wachusett community, which like at that point, when I started kind of that project, so I've done 4 24-hour attempts on Mount Wachusett to get this, get this standard finally to a halfway decent, not quite where I want it, but a halfway decent place, 39 summits. When you're on the same trail every day and you're sharing every summit live and you're putting the stuff in like Facebook groups and there's like a small community. I mean, especially on this last one, man. I mean, it feels like it doesn't even feel like you're like a filmmaker or a photographer anymore. It feels like you are a fucking straight up performance artist, man. Like it feels like you are performing. I mean, and that's why, you hear that term performance in the racing and endurance world all the time. He had an incredible performance out there. Oh my God. Do you remember blah, blah, blah's performance this year? This is performance art. And, having that history with the creative end, being a filmmaker, being a photographer, not being afraid to call myself both an athlete and an artist. Like it's helped me lean into that, because I think again, like there are some people that might kind of look at that a little bit as, a little cringy, oversharing. This guy's just, wants all the attention. And it's like, really at the end of the day, man, it's like, sharing these very unique and inspiring and difficult experiences with people, again, to try to hype folks up. But, if you can give it to them in real time, in person, if you're literally like, I mean, we can get into this a little bit more, but there's been cool experiences, man, during these 4 attempts that have, allowed me to rub shoulders with just some of the coolest people in the Wachusett community and also like the White Mountains community, because they are one and the same in a lot of respects at times. It's just become one of the most important days out of my year. And, if you guys want to kind of ask more specifics, that's fine. But I will say, just to kind of paint a little bit of a clearer picture for anybody who's listening. So going 24 hours on Wachusett 4 separate times. The first attempt, I got 30 summits. The second attempt, I got 31 summits. The third attempt, I should really be calling them completions because I went 24 hours the whole time. The third completion was, I think, 35 summits. And then this past completion, this past June, It was 39 summits, and that was, I think, 72 miles and just over 30,000 vertical feet of climbing on the same 8/10 of a mile trail for. That was actually like the most dramatic finish because I got to the last summit with like 12 minutes to spare, and we were just like going way too fast downhill, and I just like ended up taking quite like a top 3 violent fall
really?
on the last quarter mile of Mount Wachusett, like to the point where like I went out and ran Moosalok a little hard yesterday, and I still kind of, it's fine, but like I could still feel like a little twinge, like just like below my breast muscle from my chest literally just smashing into the ground. But
wow.
Finished 39 summits with like literally a minute to spare. It was like 11:59 a.m. or p.m. And my goal has always been 40 summits, man. I've just always kind of felt like that is what, for whatever reason, I've kind of always felt like that was my endpoint. I feel like that's absolutely within my potential. I've learned a lot over the last 4 attempts. I really haven't like put this out there like officially or unofficially, but I know for sure like I've got one more good swing in me before I want to like not even like move on from the project, but before I like open it up kind of to the public. Like I'd like to go one more time, get 40 plus, and then I'd actually like to get permits from like the DCR, the Department of Conservation and Recreation, permits from Mount Wachusett, and kind of open this up to like a very short list of participants who want to register and follow suit and see how many summits they can do on Mount Wachusett in 24 hours, starting and ending at midnight.
Super cool.
Dude, are you like that would be just the dope. We did a just kind of like a quick trial run last November. We did a 9-hour Wachusett 9-hour. So fucking fun, man. Like everyone had a blast. We had Hoka come out, they demoed shoes. Everyone had their little aid station in their car at the base of the mountain, and like, dude, you're Everesting Mount Wachusett. Like when you're doing
you are
summits, like you're climbing the summit of Everest from sea level to the summit on a 2,000 foot hill in central Massachusetts. Like I've always been a fan of this, like creating something massive out of like absolutely nothing. I love that concept, like creatively, athletically. And that's what you're doing, man. You're giving yourself fully, and you're like locking in, and you're hypnotizing yourself for 24 hours, and you're giving absolutely everything you fucking have. And you're walking out the other side, man. And like, I don't know, like you see people start to like, you see like the community a little bit starting to be, maybe it's just me, but you're seeing people doing more like double summits, triple summits. You're seeing people talking about, I've had multiple people come up to me and say, hey, I'm doing this on like this summit that really means something important to me. This is the first mountain I climbed, or, I'm doing it over here. And it's just like, damn, again, like just impact, hyping up your contemporaries, but at the same time, like also keeping your foot on people's neck, and like just doing your own thing, making sure that you're challenging yourself and doing your thing.
Yeah, that's going to actually lead me into a question that I feel like I know where you're going to go with it, but how's it feel to know that you're setting the benchmark for somebody else that's now their goal? They want to not only get to 39, but they want to surpass that. Like what's that feel like? That must be pretty awesome feeling.
That's the whole point.
Yeah.
Because like cool. I said this earlier, I have no God-given talent. I'm not an elite athlete. I know how to market myself. I know how to conceptualize unique projects that people take interest in. I know how to speak well, and I know how to, connect with members in my community. And I know how to do all of those things like very prolifically. And when you do that, of course, you want people to just kind of know what you're capable of and know that like you're out here living up to your own potential, but you also do it so that you can plant seeds in everybody else around you, because you're doing this knowing that like, oh my God, guys. I mean, do you know, like I would put every dollar in my bank account on 10 different dudes in my immediate circle that could go out tomorrow if they really wanted to. Maybe not go out tomorrow, but they wanted to focus the next month or whatever, train up 2 months, and they could absolutely go out and do that and surpass what I did. That's never lost on me. And if anything, it keeps me more humble. If anything, it like makes me like this is kind of an important point, and I don't feel like it's discussed enough in the outdoor space. I think everybody's faster than me. I think everybody is stronger than me. I think everybody is more capable, more creative. I think that everybody can see what I'm about to do before I go out and do it. But like, the difference is I don't let those things take me off the path that I know I'm meant to walk. I don't let those things fuck with my self-doubt. I don't let those things, create just depression or comparison. I let those things hype me the fuck up. You know what I mean? I use those things as a mechanism to stay locked in and to make sure that like my spreadsheet of bucket list endurance projects that I think are going to have impact on the White Mountains and really push the needle forward. I make sure that those things are being not only recognized, but tended to, and that they're not just words on a paper, but that they're actually going to see reality. And again, hopefully hype up the next person along the line. So I'm answering these questions in a very roundabout way, but Josh, like,
no, it's fine.
Just to be like very direct, man. It makes me scared shitless, and it makes me it makes me incredibly excited, dude, because you know what? Like, I want to go out next year and get 40 summits in June and raise a bunch of money and be the first, set that standard and set that goal. But in putting this out here right now with the podcast and making that public and trying to like share this information as honestly and prolifically as possible, I know that there could be some kid that we've never heard of in their dorm room out like in Connecticut or wherever, listening, like some crew member in a hut somewhere listening and being like, yo, that's actually mine, and I'm going out there for that before this guy gets to it. And it's like, dude, like, I fucking love it. I love it all. You know what I mean? I love it all.
That's the cool thing is like you've pushed yourself to a level where now you've, like I said before, you've set the benchmark, and just to know that is going to motivate somebody else to get out there and try their damnedest to go out there and beat that record, dude, is like, that's insane. That's humbling, dude. Just to know somebody else has set you as their goal. Like, all right, I want to get to Philip's level. I know gonna have to push myself. So now you've like you said, somebody you've never even met before is now motivated by something that you have gone out and done. It's awesome, dude.
Yeah, man, I appreciate you recognizing that and commenting on it, man. Like, it's and again, like this, the same way that a lot of people want to take advantage of being able to build an audience in 2024, and the same way that I've done that as well. Like, want to also make sure that in this this age of just mass sharing of information and knowledge that I'm contributing to the pool. And that's the thing, man. There's always going to be somebody faster. There's always going to be somebody strong. Like, this is just a moment in time in the history of endurance and long distance hiking and long distance peak bagging in the White Mountains in the Northeast. And, like, I'm doing my thing now, but there's a lot of other people doing their thing. And guess what, man? I pull inspiration from these guys as well. The Will Petersons, like the Tara Dowers, like the Scott Beneroffs, like the Andrew Drummonds, dude, like all these pioneers, all these innovators, all these people who are doing their own fucking thing, dude. They're doing the same thing to me that I'm doing for other people, and that's the beauty of it. It is never ending. It is never ending. Yeah. Cool, so I appreciate you recognizing that.
Yeah, this has been great, dude. We could talk to you for hours and hours. I'm gonna try to be respectful of your time. I did have one more question.
Dude, honestly, man, I'm literally like not watching the clock, so don't feel like I'm more respectful of your guys' time, because I can riff for as long as you guys want me to. So
we can riff a little bit on this, but so you have all these sort of creative things that you've done, and all these sort of different between you got the Dare Testimo Yo-Yo, and I mean, you got the Kank out and back kind of deal. Like, out of all these creative projects, what's sort of the one that's made you the happiest, I guess, and you just felt the most fulfilled by? Are they all sort of the same level, or is there one that sort of sticks out? Or
no, man, no.
That's a good question.
Yeah, some of them I'd be happy to like, never speak their fucking names again. To be honest with you,
yeah.
Dude, the Kancamagus Highway Yo-Yo. You're gonna have to show me a fucking bag to go back out there and do some dumb shit like that.
Yeah.
Like the next person whoever sees that and is like, oh, I want to walk across the Kank on pavement for 75 miles in a day in winter, carrying all my own shit. Yo, have at it, my brother. That's all you. I'm like half joking, but also kind of serious because that shit was grueling.
Yeah.
No, man, like of everything that I've ever done in the outdoors, all the long distance through hiking, all the conventional like AT, PCT, all of the peak bagging and what have you, I can tell you that the most gratifying outdoor project that I've ever executed, the project that has made me feel the most connected to the community and made me feel like I was just not only like filling my heart the fullest that I could, but also just kind of like, giving back an equal amount and having impact was the single year grid, the White Mountain single year grid. And for folks who aren't familiar, the New Hampshire grid is a list-based pursuit specific to the White Mountains of New Hampshire that dictates a hiker climb all 48 4,000 footers in the White Mountains in every month of the year. So 576 peaks over no specific period of time. So like for many people, this is a lifelong pursuit. And on the quicker end, at least, when I pursued the grid and even like now, I mean, you're really not seeing people complete a grid start to finish in much less than like 3 years. If someone does it in 2, I would say that's like exceptionally fast, even by today's standard. But I wanted to go out and I wanted to do what I refer to as the single year grid. And, as we're kind of coming off this idea of just hyping people up and being hyped up by other people in the community, there's a woman named Susanna Johnston. That name is probably not super familiar to a lot of people, but she is an OG trail runner, endurance hiker, who lives kind of in the Northeast Kingdom of Vermont. She was a pioneer in the early days of ultramarathon running, specifically like women ultramarathon running. So she's held overall fastest known times on the John Muir Trail. She's won the Hard Rock. She, up until recently, was the only woman to complete a fun run at Barkley. She's held several records on the New Hampshire 48, like speed records, summer speed records, winter speed records. And she is the first known person to complete the White Mountains grid in a year. So going out and hiking 4,000 footers every single month for 12 consecutive months, not over some extended period of time, but for 12 consecutive months. And in 2016, she started in January, finished in December, and like really like made shockwaves in the White Mountains community, just in terms of what she did with the grid and how she pushed the grid forward. She essentially like rewrote what was possible with the White Mountains grid. A lot of people weren't even thinking about attempting the grip in that way. Never seriously taking a swing at it.
A lot of people think the grid is crazy in general. I feel like a lot of people, when you first start to talk about them, and then it's funny. Then I'm going down the seasonal path now and starting to mark down my spreadsheet. So I'm telling myself I'm not quite gridding yet, but I can see how it happens, and it's not really. I mean, once you get out there, especially in the winter and the spring months, like odds are if you're doing Galehead on like a crappy rainy day, like there's pretty good odds that if it's a weekend day, like you're going to cross someone gridding and trying to knock out Galehead and South Twin or something like that. Like they're out there. It's not really. I think it sounds sort of not fantastical. Maybe that's not the wrong word to a lot of people who are even familiar with the whites, but I feel like the longer that I kind of have been hiking and the more I get to know people in the community, like a lot of people are gridders and working on their grid. Like it's not unusual really at all.
Yeah. I mean, more people have been on the summit of Everest than have gridded. I think the finisher list is, I think I was finisher number 84. And I think now the finisher list is somewhere in the mid 100s. I'm just kind of building this up so you guys have full context here, because like
Sure.
with many projects in the White Mountains and many lists in the White Mountains, nuance is like very important. It's a very important part of the story. So when Sue went out and did that in 2016, this is the year after like my first round of the New Hampshire 48. And when I did that round in June of 2015, like I had heard about the grid, and being a thru hiker, I had thought to myself like, fuck, I wonder if someone could do this in a year, you know? And like your brain starts to kind of work and you almost start to believe it's possible. And you're like, do I want to like go out and try to do this to be the first person to do this in a year? Yeah. And coincidentally, I just like the universe just worked some shit. And I, not knowing Sue, I sat down with her coincidentally in June of 2016 at a dinner table amongst just like a bunch of runners that I didn't really belong at this dinner table, but through a friend of a friend, I was there. And she was halfway through her calendar year grid and was kind of talking about what she was doing. And my fucking heart sank to the table. I was just like, whoa, like someone's out there. And then I was like, yo, who the fuck is Sue Johnston? And like got home and like Google search and stuff. And I was like,
who is she? What's she doing?
Yeah. I was just like, whoa, like this woman has done so much. And I was just in total awe and knew at that point, halfway through her year, that she was going to do it, you know, unless something crazy happened. And she did end up doing it. And it reframed again how people saw the White Mountains grid. And this is where shit gets really interesting. So fastest known time, the fastest known time organization does something called fastest known time of the year at the end of every season, where they nominate like the best efforts in the fastest known time community. And they also give out an honorable mention. And that year, the honorable mention went to Sue Johnston. And they said she just set this crazy FKT on the White Mountains grid. It took her like 12 months of hiking. She climbed 48 mountains a month through the fucking winter. Like, you know, kudos to her. And, you know, I'm like at home, super fucking depressed, like trying to figure out like, you know, like what is, you know, knowing that I'd done this round of the 48 in a super, you know, relatively quick amount of time, like a few weeks in 2015, and knowing that I wanted to go out and pursue the grid, like, but also like seeing Sue take this massive step forward and just push the bar to a completely different place and feeling a little bit lost in spite of that. You know, I stumble upon the comment section in this fastest known time on this fastest known time website where they're mentioning Sue Johnson, and she's actually in there leaving this comment. And the shit that she wrote was really interesting. She said, I understand that like what I've done is technically set a fastest known time for the grid, but that was like never my intention. The intention was to do it in a calendar year. And in her mind, those were two different things. She wanted to do it in 1 year. Of course, no one had ever done it anywhere near close to that, but like it was not like a FKT based thing. It was not to like break some record or set some record. In a lot of ways, it almost sounded like she did it in like this anti-FKT psychology, because she never submitted anything to anyone. She never So she went on to write, if I were going to have set this in a fastest known time, this is how I would do it. She said, I would train all summer and I would start the first round the last week of August, depending on how fit you were and how much you could gamble, how late you could gamble starting. I'd do the last week in August and then go through and do every month, 10 months, September through June. And then in July, the last month, I'd go as fast as I could the first week of July. And so what you have is when you look at the total elapsed time from the time you left the trailhead on that very first peak, the last week of August, to the time you get to the end of the time you get back to the end of the trailhead, you know, on that last peak, the first week of July, you look at the elapsed time, you know, you have 48 4,000 footers hiked every month over the course of 12 calendar months, but the elapsed time is something like 10 and a half months. The project in its entirety, a project that requires hiking 48 mountains in 12 calendar months consecutively, you know, now gets condensed down to 10 and a half months elapsed time.
Shorter. Yeah.
And when I read that shit, there was no,
there's the goal.
I was like, this is the vision. So this is the point. Sue has pushed the needle forward in this way, and that wasn't meant to be me. What was meant for me was to now take this and take it to a whole different fucking place, and not only do that, but do that and put it out to the community in real time as prolifically as I fucking could, because Sue is very quiet about what she does. She was publishing numbers on her website, but there wasn't a lot of beta. There wasn't a lot of like super deep information about what she was doing. It was clear what she was doing, but her goal was not to like share every detail. I wanted people to know about the grid. I wanted people to know about the single year grid. I wanted like all the AT, PCT, CDT through hikers, all the triple crowners to like, you know, look over to the Northeast and be like, holy shit, that's that shit that I want to take on now. Yeah, that's that shit that I want to take on now after I finish my triple crown. And to make a really, really long story short with you guys, because, you know, we've been riffing and I don't want to go too long on you.
No,
but,
I did have one quick question too. What was the thought process behind leaving out like mid-July to like August? Like, is it because it's the hottest time of the year, or like
why did I decide to pursue that specific start and end point?
Yeah. I know you mentioned in her comments, maybe she left that.
She did mention it in her comments. So that got the psychology kind of moving in my brain.
Yeah.
Really, man, like you want to choose 2 months where you're going to be in a place like the White Mountains of New Hampshire, where the variables are many because of weather, because of conditions, because of a lot of different things.
Mm-hmm.
You want to choose 2 months where you're going to face the least amount of friction trying to get through the 48 in such a short period of time.
Okay.
Because when I went out and did the single year grid, I did the first round the last 8 days of August, and then I did the last round the first 6.5 days of July. And in my mind, it's like even if you move those 2 months one forward or one backwards on either end, you kind of open up the potential for some just maybe even not likely, but just some weird shit to happen that could
you think
throw
like
you
hail,
off course.
snow, like bad river crossing, stuff like that. So
let's say I was going out now. Like, I mean, I started like August 23rd. Let's say I went out September 23rd. We've already had our first frost up there. On like, I mean, it's getting fucking cold. It's getting really windy. There's way less daylight. Am I saying that would have happened? And am I saying that like, if that did happen, would that absolutely like throw me off the mission? No, but I'm saying that like when you're trying to do even something like an 8-day completion of the 48, you really want conditions to be in your favor. And if you move from August to September, that shit gets a little weird. Same thing on the other end. July, first week, dude, even if it snows up to our ears, which it absolutely did in 2018, 2019, that is the most insane winter I've ever seen in my entire fucking life. Fools are out here complaining about the last couple winters, dude, and like these late season storms. Dude, there were views on 4,000 footers that have never had views before. There were views on Tecumseh, views on Zealand, dude, all of the entire like Wildcats and Carters. Like it was like a fucking ridge walk. It was insane. But in July, there in the beginning of June, there was still patchy snow going up Isolation, going up a couple different areas. Would it have been a big deal, like if I was actually like trying to get through the 48, like the beginning of June? Like probably not. But if it was coupled with other shitty weather, it's still very cold in the beginning of June in the high country.
It's so funny. It's so funny you mentioned that. You just brought back a memory of we did the first time I ever did the Tri-Pyramids. We were heading up there and we hit a shit ton of snow, like literally the first week of June. Like heading up that final stretch of the summit. It's funny. It not to throw you off, but that totally triggered a memory of that. I remember we hit like thigh deep post holing for like a quarter of a mile heading up to the summit and like with the black flies. It was like, it was interesting.
Yes.
Yeah, it was interesting. Anyway, but White Mountain vibes.
White Mountain vibes, dude. And you know what? Like, even if that shit isn't like slowing you down necessarily, it's like, dude,
just pisses you off.
Well, yeah, and you've climbed all 48 4,000 footers for 11 fucking straight months up to that point, man. Like the last month I was just so fucking tired, and the last thing that I'd want to be dealing with is sliding on some weird ass monorails from like a so my point is like when you really think about are there any 2 months that truly kind of give you safe passage and reduce the amount of friction and reduce the amount of bullshit that you're going to have to deal with? In my opinion, and of course, like to Sue's credit, to her, in her opinion as well, it's August and it's July, and I, give credit where credit is due and recognize that, and took that on, and had just to give a few more kind of like brief kind of notes and a little bit of context on this, because I mean, my God, it was like sick. I forget. I mean, like it's years ago that I did this. It feels like people don't even quite remember the single year grid or know that people have done a single year grid. But a lot of people know I'm affiliated. Live and work at the Notch Hostel for 8 months out of the year. I came up to the single year grid planning to live out of the back of my fucking 1998 Ford pickup truck during the whole thing. But thank God, like answered an ad at the Notch Hostel literally the week before I started. I forgot to mention this. My first and my last month were White Mountains Diartissimas. So like that's kind of
I heard you dropped 6 days. Well, basically the time frame. So I was kind of like, okay,
yeah, 8 days and 6 days, which sounds like kind of off because it almost sounds like a little bit slow compared to like what a lot of the but like when you're not getting into a car and driving peak to peak, when you're literally starting on Cabot and like hiking every mile to Moosalok, obviously you're covering you're covering way more miles than you would otherwise.
I'm in no position to call you on your times for those, so
but that was the whole point.
I know what you mean though.
I wanted to do that. I wanted to make sure the shit was absolutely as tough as possible. I didn't want to cut any corners, but ended up just forming a great relationship with the Notch Hostel, which is carried over for the last 6 years. Met so many cool people in the community. Like, dude, got so many incredible hiking partners in the community from working at the Notch Hostel. Like those, you asked me like what my favorite project was. Like, I mean, it was fucking tough as nails, and I'm super proud that I can, say that like I've climbed the 48 like 12 months in a row. But there was something really magical happening in the community at that time, man. Like the Notch Hostel was just a vortex. It was a vessel for so many people. So I was, living on the property, meeting so many people, working there, at times full time while I was pursuing this, it was not uncommon, man. Like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, as like, the hostel started to fill up in the winter, where it's like 3, 4, 5 of us are all up at the hostel, 2 o'clock, 3 in the morning, getting a pot of coffee on, all going out to, break peaks that like we all collectively need. But also like, these folks are knowing that like, I need help, like breaking trail, and I'm fucking out there and they're like going home and seeing me like hike through the week. And then they're coming back up to the hostel and they're just backing me up and making me food and showing me love. And like, at no other time in my life have I felt like I've really had such a deep and heavy impact. Have I felt like I've had such an incredible fucking momentum, man. I mean, it's dangerous how like the kind of momentum you can fucking tap into when you are climbing 48 mountains every month. And I've done some really fucked up, really tough, really wild shit since then. But I compare everything that I do to the single year grid. I want to do another single year grid. I will do another single year grid. I'd like to hike the guidebook and the grid in the same calendar year. I want to take that shit like as far, I'd love to do another single year grid where I'm not doing diartissimas on the front end and the back end, where I'm literally just going out hard as fuck with a support crew with me, meeting me at every road crossing or driving me to every trail, like really, really low. I mean, can you imagine that, man, going out for, could you imagine? That's what I fucking love, man. The idea of going out for 10 and a half months just to shave 7 days off what you already pioneered. You don't do that shit for any other reason than moving the needle forward and showing people like what is possible and giving people hard fucking proof, man, that like a super untalented individual from Worcester, Massachusetts, like can go out and fall in love with his practice and do the most insane shit, and like you can too. There's nothing separating you. It is literally just making the decision that is your path and that you want to put in the time and energy to not be average at, your pursuit or your practice, but really, man, being the best you can, like, and recognizing that we've all got a certain level of potential in us. And, like when we reach that, like shit gets crazy, man.
Word.
That's super well said. I had my one last question, and we'll actually cover for tonight. This is super interesting, dude. What was the hardest month out of that? I think I'm gonna guess April, but I was curious when you did it. Like, what was the worst month?
Well, I'll preface by saying that I finished on the last day of the month for 6 out of the 12 months.
Wow.
So
okay.
when I say that winter was super fucked up, I mean it. And I pay for this shit myself, man. Like I've been really lucky to like build some relationships and work with some super dope companies since then. But I paid for this shit myself. I was working full time at the hostel at times, specifically through the winter. And I was putting myself in just absolutely insane scenarios in terms of how little sleep I was getting, and then the types of hikes that I go out and do. I mean, dude, this is not an exaggeration. I would work the front desk at the hostel from 4 o'clock till 9 o'clock on a Friday night. I'd get off at 9. I'd be sleeping from 10. I'd wake up at 2. I'd be leaving the hostel at 3. I'd be doing a car spot. This is in like fucking January, dude. Doing a car spot for the Prezi at maybe 3:30, walking by 4. At that point, super fit. So I'm doing a full traverse in the winter in good conditions in 10 hours. So I'm back to my car at 2. I'm back to the hostel, having gone back and got, picked up the car from Appalachia by like literally, dude, 3:45, quick shower. I'm literally sitting at the front desk on a Saturday night to work another 4 to 9 shift.
Insane.
I'm being, and it's not even a flex, man, because it's super unhealthy. Like the sleep deprivation and the lack of REM sleep that I got that winter. Like, if you look at like brain science and sleep deprivation and long-term effects of like sleep deprivation, it's actually not sexy. But then I'd be up the very next morning because I had to, I had to be on at, let's say, noon, to like do a deep clean of the whole hostel on a Sunday afternoon. And I'd be doing the Osceolas or Musalak or something more local, not all day, but still like needing to get those peaks. So when you ask, when you ask like what the most difficult month was, no doubt the entire winter was super fucked up.
Okay.
And dude, there were days I was out doing a presidential traverse, like in the winter solo with no fucking car spot on the other end, like on IG, on stories that had just been out for like 3 months. Like, yo, I'm on the Prezi, like I'm on Washington, like any chance anybody's going to be around? Like,
you're like, hopefully someone reads this by the time I get down.
Dude, but like people would come through and it was crazy. Yeah. But yes, to your point, Nick, and I know I'm giving a very long-winded answer.
No, dude, it's fine.
April was like one of the most, that month of April was like one of the most fucked up consolidated periods of my hiking life that I've ever had. And the reason for that was because there was so much snow. But more specifically, the first week or two was still super, super cold, man. And so all that snow just stayed really solid. We weren't getting a lot of accumulation, but it wasn't melting. And then all of a sudden, like the temperature switched, maybe like the 3rd or 4th week, and it just got really, really warm. And so like literally, man, you're getting onto these monorails, you're getting onto like the snow that really hasn't even really been able to consolidate into a monorail yet, and you're not dropping like down to your ankles or like down to your shins. Like we were down and up to our fucking hips, like hips, chest. The videos that I have, man, are just insane. And then really like late April into early May, dude, the water crossings out there, like I can only imagine. I turned back once on the single year grid. And it was in April, and it was heading up to North Twin, and it was trying to cross that goddamn river. And I was up to my waist, and dude, like I've crossed waist deep water on the PCT at 8,000 feet at fucking midnight. Your legs are numb before you get out the other side. Like it's not like I'm intimidated by water, but dude, like
being cold,
it was crazy. So yes, April. Yo, this is so funny, and probably not like super PC, but whatever. I did an interview with like these dudes over at the Trek, like Backpacker Radio. This is years ago, and we were talking about the single year grid, and they were like, all right, we're going to play fuck, kill, marry. And you have to like,
I like where this is going.
Yeah. You have to fuck, kill, marry like one of the months on the single year grid. And I think fuck was like, I think it was like October, September.
That sounds
like,
right.
Yeah. It's like super beautiful, super colorful, but also kind of like edgy and like, you know, weird.
Might throw some snow or frost at you. Like you don't know what's coming.
couple surprises, you know, like,
could be 90, could be snowing. We don't know.
Mary was August all day, just because I truly believe, you know, the first couple weeks, maybe even like third, fourth week in August, dude. And this August is no exception, man. The rain moved out. It was dry. It was cool. It was fucking crisp. The days still feel long. You're kind of at the peak of your season because you've been crushing all summer. So I would definitely marry the month of August. But just to bring this thing full circle, Nick, if I had to kill 1 month, it would definitely be the month of April. And that's the answer. That's the answer that I gave during that interview. And that's still the fucking answer that I give right now. Just because, dude, not only was the hiking conditions insane, but at that point in the journey, bro, you know, you start to realize like, whoa, I'm going to do this and get through this and actually achieve this goal. But you're definitely getting tired, dude. And you've been hiking a lot, and the pressure that you put on yourself for nearly a year at that point is intense. And I've, you know, been putting all this stuff out there publicly the whole time. And so you feel just the pressure of people watching and knowing that most people want you to succeed, but there's also some fools out there that are just like weird as fuck and like want you to like fall on your face. And, you know, and it's also like the pressure that you put on yourself. That's definitely one of my toxic traits, man. Like I put incredible amounts of pressure on myself to perform, to the point where like my mental health definitely suffers at times, right? Like ironically, this beautiful practice that I have that's supposed to bring me so much fulfillment and peace and joy has also been the product of my own self-destruction. But that's just like part of the complexity of moving your body like this for so many years and going through such a wide variety of experiences. You know, it's just like, you can't necessarily control what the outcome is. So, yeah, man, single year grid. There we go. Long-winded answer to that.
That was great. That was great detail.
That was fantastic, dude. That was so interesting.
Appreciate you guys.
All right, man. Well, I think we're gonna call it here, man. And this is more, but I think hopefully we can get on and hear more about your adventures and things. This was great. Thank you again. And
my pleasure, guys.
And man, take care. And
thanks so much. Hold on, before he goes, go ahead. Say again your where can the people find you?
Yeah. So on the internet, on social media, anywhere online, you can find me at Finding Phillip. So my Instagram, my TikTok, my Facebook is all Finding Phillip. My website is findingphillip.com. I'll also throw a shout out to the Notch Hostel, which is my place of employment and also a sponsor of mine, as well as Virgin Outdoor, which is an outdoor apparel company located in downtown Lincoln, New Hampshire. And actually, like, I want to throw a shout out to you guys as well, man, just because, like, I really respect the come up, and I respect anybody who's like has a vision and is willing to go through humble beginnings to get that vision off the ground. And I know what it's like to start things, and it's not fucking sexy. And it takes a lot of time to like build something special. And I appreciate like what you guys are doing. Nick, you're always fucking like sharing the Summits and Solidarity shit. You're always sharing my shit. And it's like, you know, you don't have to do that. And that's not expected, but it's cool, man.
Yeah, we try to help out. I mean, I think, again, in the further I've gone down into the rabbit hole of hiking and sort of the White Mountains, sort of hiking culture, if you can call it that, and meeting people and getting into winter peaks and seasonal peaks and all that stuff. I mean, I'm kind of just getting into it, and you realize, I mean, it's like, I'm just stoked, like you said, I'm just stoked on other people enjoying the mountains. Like, even if it's someone's first 48 or if you're doing a single year grid, it's like, to me, it's about sharing these things. I mean, I think too, as Northeast hikers, I mean, I've only hiked out like west, maybe like once at this point. But I think we have a little bit of a chip on our shoulder. Again, you've done the PCT and you've sort of done some bigger out here hikes, but I think sometimes people aren't thinking of like, oh man, like the Northern Prezzies are like probably some of the most steep and rugged and aggressive terrain that really quite literally is on the planet, depending on which day you might be looking up there. And again, it long-winded sort of, I guess, rant, but yeah, we're just trying to share some details about the Whites and sort of what people are doing up there, because I think it's amazing. So we talk about a lot of stuff in this podcast, but obviously that's sort of the focus, and a lot of people know about all the pointless up and downs on our trails in the Whites. So that's sort of where it comes from.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, man, just keep going. You know what I mean? Like, just keep putting those reps in, and I like what you guys are doing. And if there's anything that I can do to help you out, or just like even as a hiker, like both you guys, like use me as a resource. Like swing by the Notch for a cup of coffee at some point this winter if you're in town, or hit us up if you need to get pulled off a mountain before calling search and rescue. We might be able to like boom shoot up and get you real quick before the pros come in, and we'll save you the embarrassment of having your name put out there on the Facebook pages. But I'm just fucking with you guys. But yeah, man, much love and best of luck, and let me know if there's anything I can do for you guys. Seriously, I love what you're doing.
Yeah,
thanks,
Phil,
man.
thank you so much, man. Thanks for coming on, and
cool.
Great information, man.
Hell yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, guys. Talk to you soon.
All right, man. So Phil Carcia, what do you think?
Woo, man, that was a lot. That was a lot in a good way.
Yes,
like, in a good way. There was like, I don't even think we like cracked half of that guy's resume. Like,
no, we truthfully didn't.
Yeah, like we could have spent another 2 or 3 hours talking to him and really dove into everything that he's done. But man, what energy, what good stuff, dude. Like so many good things.
Great energy. I really enjoyed hearing sort of his side of where he came from, his backstory, kind of what drives him to do what he does, which is that whole combining sort of art and the physical sort of aspect of it, and the athleticism is I think kind of a unique thing. And he definitely thinks outside the box with some of those routes and those different challenges. And again, we didn't get into half of them. I'm sure we'll have him back. We'd love to have him back. And it was a very, very interesting conversation.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
And we usually try to be sort of like, I'll say, respectful of guest time, but clearly he had a ton to talk about. He was very gracious with his time and stuff as well. So we really appreciated that.
Yeah.
And we really enjoyed sitting down and talking with him.
Yeah. His accomplishments and his drive, dude, like that was incredible. I think that the thing that I wasn't expecting is how driven he is, and like how motivated he is, and like just he really wants to go out there and crush it all the time. And that's incredible, dude. That's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, in the whole 39 summits of Wachusett, and I'm sure he'll get his 40, if not more than that. I don't have much doubt on that.
Yeah, no doubt, dude. No doubt.
All right, man. So I'd like to remind everybody that this week's descent is brought to you by the clothing company by our great friend Lori, Adventuristic. So Adventuristic is all sorts of hand-drawn, hand-created designs by our friend Lori, who's been creating some amazing stuff. She looks like she's going through creating a winter collection right now. It's been cool. I've been trying to share out some of it and show sort of her back process on how she illustrates and how she sort of comes up with these designs that she's printing. So everything's sort of nature inspired by hiking, mountains, the deserts, all that great stuff and stuff that we also love. And you can find them at adventuristic.com, adventuristic.com, and you can use code PUDS, capital PUDS POD, for 20% off your first order and free shipping. So go check them out, Adventuristic Clothing. And I actually just ordered a couple new athletic shirts for the winter. So
oh, nice.
I'm pretty stoked.
Yeah, that winter collection's looking sick, dude. I saw one that she shared the other day. I'm into that. I'm super into that.
Yeah, I was chatting with her a little bit, but she's got some good stuff coming for the winter, to say the least. And as things get nippy, she'll be there for you. Adventuristic will be there for you, I should say.
Word.
Right, man. So what you been watching? You been watching anything good? Because I haven't really been watching too much new.
Nah, just plugging our way through that Lord of the Rings show, and it's so good, dude.
Yeah, still blowing you away.
Rings of Power. Yeah, it's I don't like I said. To me, it's not even a debate. It's definitely better than House of Dragon, dude. Like, so now we just been watching that. There's a new show. I think it's called Alone, maybe on Prime that I wanted to watch, but I'll get back to you.
The Alone survival show that I've been watching.
No.
Oh, okay.
No. It's like I think it's like a horror show.
I did actually finish that. Now that I'm saying that I didn't watch anything, but carry on.
I don't know if it's Alone. It might be a Nobody. I don't know. Once I figure it out, next episode I'll come on and I'll tell you exactly what it is. So
by myself, something like that.
Yeah. What about you? Nothing else. Nothing new.
No, now that
Deadliest
I said
Catch?
Nothing new. Yeah, I mean that's what I say when I mean nothing new. Like Deadliest Catch. I did finish this latest season of Alone, and it was really good. The French Canadian fellow won it, so it's kind of cool to see. My money was on him the whole time because he seemed like he was the only one that genuinely wasn't very frazzled about anything during the show. Like it's an interesting mix of personalities they get on that, and I'm sure a lot of it is obviously cultivated for them to have entertaining TV. Like there's some people that are very strange and very I don't know, just sort of out there, you might say, as one might expect. Yeah, eccentric, like skilled people. But this dude would seem like a very much everyday kind of average Joe that just had a really good head for survival situations and just sort of keeping calm and making intelligent decisions and not overexerting himself. And he also, I think, was one of it comes kind of typical, it seems like, but a lot of times those contestants put on a ton of weight. Like I think this dude lost like 70 pounds or something, where I'm like, if I lost 70 pounds, I mean, I'm not the smallest guy, but like I'd be dead if I lost 70 pounds. So yeah. But yeah, it's cool. I think it's an interesting show. How they put it together. It seems fairly genuine. I'm sure there's stuff that's loosely scripted. Like I doubt everything's left to chance with those shows. They're trying to make TV and they need to make sure they have entertaining TV.
For sure. I lied to you though. I'm rewatching Attack on Titan, which is an anime.
Attack on Titan, okay.
Yeah, Attack on Titan. I'm rewatching that. I made it to I was watching it originally when it first came out, and then like I think I had missed something, so then I was like absolutely confused. So I went back and started all over, and I'm like into the 4th season now. So yeah, really good anime. Attack on Titan.
Has friend of the podcast Wilkie watched Attack on Titan?
Most anime lovers have watched Attack on Titan. It was a big thing.
Cool. I feel like we went on a streak where we mentioned Wilkie like every podcast, and we kind of haven't been back there. So it's time. Well, we haven't been talking. I haven't been hiking with him, so there's no calf talk.
Yeah, no calf talk. We got to get him. Well, we have to get him on, dude. We have to have a full anime episode.
I don't know. I'll leave that in your bar part. Whittling them away.
I'm gonna keep pulling at that string and unraveling that sweater.
If you want to destroy my sweater.
You want to get into the hypothetical, my man?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it.
Josh.
Nick.
See what we did there?
Yeah, we reversed it on you. So, Nick, you are forced to give up one of your 5 senses. So, just for the listeners out there, the 5 senses are smell, sight, taste, touch, or hearing. However, you may choose to compensate for the loss by means of synesthesia. For example, if you decide to give up your sense of sight, you can choose to smell colors instead. Or if you give up hearing, you might opt to taste music. If you give up taste, you could replace the sensation by feeling flavors. Basically, whatever sense you reject would be reflected through an alternative medium. So, Nick, the question: which of your senses would you surrender, and how would you replace it?
I think I'd get rid of smell, and you'd taste with your... Oh, sorry, not smell.
You can do whatever you want. So if you got rid of smell, you can smell other ways.
Yeah, I'd probably get rid of smell. I'm going to go with it. I mean, I lost my sense of smell during COVID for like 2 weeks. And it sucked because you can't taste any food. But if I can taste with something else, It'd be weird though to have to. I just imagine myself like I'm eating lasagna or like a burger, and I'm just sticking my fingers in the burger to be able to taste it, and then putting it in my mouth. Like that seems like it'd be
good. Well, you're not losing. Yeah. So you're not losing your taste. I guess.
Okay.
You're just losing your smell.
So taste and smell are actually two different senses.
Oh yeah.
Oh, on here. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely would give up taste then.
You're gonna give up taste.
Yeah, I'll give up taste.
And then you're gonna taste with your hands, with your touch.
Yeah. Yeah, you make a good point. Enough, yeah, right? I don't know. You make a good point. Maybe it's better to give up smell and keep taste. Every time you wipe
your ass, dude.
Yeah, that sounds bad. That's a really valid point. Everybody, I mean, Josh will edit this into a video, but if you can't see Josh, he just absolutely lost it. He just cracked himself up so hard. Oh, he's dying. He had to go away from the microphone and lean back.
Oh, because I just thought about it like,
yeah, you make a valid point.
That's not a bad idea. That I'm like, but just right until you have to wipe your butt, dude. Every time you touch a doorknob, you gotta taste that doorknob, dude. No way.
You could wear gloves though.
I guess.
Yeah, that would look weird. Man. What's the like the X-Men character that can't touch anything?
Oh, Rogue.
Rogue, yeah. It'll be like that. Yeah, Rogue did. Yeah, just have those nice long gloves.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, so that's how you're gonna live your life. You're gonna wear gloves all the time.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I don't know. If you had to give up one of them, like I think that's the one I'd probably go with. I feel like hearing, my hearing and my sight, like that. Those are kind of crucial. Those aren't even on the table.
I think I'm gonna give up hearing, dude.
Really?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna give up hearing.
But I guess you can hear through something else. So
yeah, I'm gonna hear through my sight. Maybe what I could see, I can hear, or something like that.
Have a form of like being able to see like sonar and stuff.
Yeah.
Echolocation.
Yeah, dude.
Your eyeballs.
Oh yeah, this noise coming from over there. That would probably get terrible though, because everything that makes noise, dude, you'll just see all the time.
Yeah, like you'll end up looking at stuff that's noisy. I feel like inherently, which kind of happens anyways.
What if I could taste noise, like taste sound? If I want to.
Like that visual. I'm forgetting that we're on video now too. It's okay.
If I want to listen to the TV, dude, I just go and lick it. Just licking the TV.
You're just watching TV like this.
Jump scare. Ooh, jump scare. You got me. Oh man. That's a fun one, dude. That was fun.
That's a fun one. I like that one.
Yeah.
I like these. Awesome. We haven't had as many fun ones as we've had like serious ones.
They get deep, dude. They get deep. We're gonna be running out soon. I gotta buy something else. Yeah.
Are there expansion packs for it, like Cards Against Humanity or things like that?
You know what? There probably is. I'll have to look into that. I'll have to look into it.
We could just write our own. Just sit down some afternoon, just write out a bunch.
Oh, I could do that too. That sounds like a good idea.
I like it,
dude. I think that's about it. You got anything to plug, Nick, before we get out of here?
Just again, the Taylor James Steves Foundation Taze Summit Challenge. We had Britt Wasik on, co-chair and a founder, a little while back, a couple episodes back, but that's still running through October 13th. So I've got my fundraiser if you'd be kind enough to donate to it for genetic lung cancer victims, or better yet, start your own fundraiser and participate in the challenge. And you can hike wherever you want, whenever you want. You just have to have a trail on All Trails, or you can create your own map on All Trails too, and that's also valid, and just link it when you post your results. So yeah, nice. Check them out. That's all I had to plug tonight, man.
Yeah. Thanks again to Philip for coming on this evening.
Yeah, thank you, Phil.
Yeah, find him on social media at Finding Philip. Yeah, besides that, man, you can find us on social media at PUDs Podcast. Like, review, subscribe, send us an email. We're pudspodcast@gmail.com. Yeah.
If you want a sticker, we still got a couple left, but they're dwindling. We're gonna get new ones soon, I think.
It's the retro logo. Once we get the new logo on the stickers, dude, that's it. There's gonna be no more retro logos.
Retro Adirondack logo.
Yeah. Get after them. But all right, man. Until next time, bippity boppity, give me the zoppity.
Bye.
PUDs Podcast was produced and recorded in Black Cat Studios by the Pud Boys. Find us on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. If you enjoyed, please consider leaving us a review and subscribing. Find us on social media, and we'll see you next time.